Being the first Black African instructor in South Africa, the Black Mermaid is determined to share her passion for the ocean with the world and explore how our deepest beliefs about the ocean can coexist with free diving and perhaps even bring us closer to the knowledge of self. Let's go pick up Zandi Lendlof.
I'm good. Super happy. Strap up. We're gonna go rock climbing today.
Let us go. I'm excited. Taking me out the sea for these rocks.
Out of the water onto the rocks.
Whoa.
Welcome back to She is Driven by Art of Superwoman, powered by Isuzu. I'm Olwe Etule Shabane and I'm your host. Zandi, welcome to She is Driven. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I'm so excited to take you out the water and onto some rock climbing.
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. So I think to set the tone and to really get us into who you are, give us a little bit of some background of who Zandile is, and also give us a little bit about the first chapter of your life, where you grew up, where you're from.
I grew up in Soweto. So I didn't grow up anywhere near the ocean, and that's always the interesting part, that I didn't grow up being a strong swimmer. We didn't have like beach holidays, and so finding the ocean was an incredible thing for me because it was so far-fetched in all of the ways. And I think I was about 12 or 13 when my mom decided she wanted to go see her family, and her family was in the Eastern Cape, and that was the first time we got to see the beach. So we went to Transkei, down these mountains to this little village, and then the rest of the family was in East London, and that's when we had our first ocean encounter, and we actually still have the pictures from that day. And it was amazing, just the strong gushing water. And who would have ever thought that so much life lived beyond those breaking waters? I didn't know that.
Wow. So what was that point for you where you said water is where I feel most alive?
So 2016, I'm going through the most. And I think it's important to say, because I probably only started learning how to swim in matric, teaching myself at the gym. So you finally made it, you can afford a gym membership, and you're figuring it out a day at a time. And 2016, I'm going through this hard time, and it's called a divorce because that's what it is. And I just figure I don't know how to tell my family that I'm a failure. So I'm like, I'm going to go on holiday, and I call up this agency and I say, listen, I've got this amount of money, please take me away. They take me away, find a holiday in Bali, and I'm riding down to breakfast, and I hear this guy, snorkel trip. I think I've always wanted to do this, it's fancy. And I go out. And of course, I freak out as we leave, and I'm thinking, if anything happens, who's going to tell my family? What was I doing here? All of these questions. And once we get there, the captain says, everybody kit up. I didn't grow up around the ocean. I don't even know what that means.
Kitting up?
So I'm looking around to see what everybody's doing. And the lady who was sitting opposite me says, have you ever been snorkeling before? I say, no. And she says, why didn't you say anything? I'm like, I would have figured it out. And I grew up in Soweto. We can figure out just about anything. And she says, no, And she holds out the snorkel and she says, you breathe in and out through this one, because when you put on your mask, it's going to cover your nose, so you won't be able to breathe. I'm 28 years old. I did not know that. And so then I jump into the water. I don't know how I don't gash my head open. But in that moment, I start panicking. I'm drowning. As I hit the water, I'm the only black person on the boat. It's dramatic. It's horrible. But and as this other lady says, it's physically impossible to drown. I have a moment, self to self. Hi, why are you being dramatic? You're the only black person. But then again, what was the issue? I couldn't touch the floor. And when you're swimming in a pool, you can always just pause and just think about your life. But what followed was just the most incredible experience, just like looking beneath the surface, and there were these colorful fishes everywhere, and this moray eel makes its way into it was incredible, and the bottom of the ocean looked like it was lit up from below. It was insane. And I just remember thinking, I come from Soweto, this world that's majority brown. And when I started working, I could buy myself a little bit of greenery, and comes this blue world, and it just knocks me out. And so I have this moment of just feeling like this is what I've always believed life to be. These crazy looking things and everything looks this weird and it's normal. And I'd always been an odd one. And we get to the second dive spot. I dive in and I hold my breath for probably 20 seconds. And I get to the sense of belonging, this feeling of home like I'd never felt in my life. And that changes everything. And I come back and I say, what do we do next? Everyone's like, scuba diving. And I get certified to the, like I'm only short of my dive master certification, but I'm strongly certified in scuba diving. But it still didn't feel like that moment in 2016. And then in 2019, I go on my first ever freediving trip, having seen it on Instagram, and there was that feeling of home. There it is. And I just knew I wanted to teach, I wanted to tell everybody who would listen. This was it.
And the transition from corporate to diving, what was that like? And did you not feel at some stage you could say, what is it I'm going through right now? What is this I'm going through?
I think I was curious. It was this one world that everything, it existed in things I'd never seen before. It was incredible. And the thing is with scuba diving is, it feels like you are on this tour. You're on this bus, and a dive master's like, to your left, there's a turtle, to your right, and you're breathing, and life is good. And later on, in freediving, there's none of that. You're working on one breath, on one breath hold. But for me, I didn't think I was crazy.
In freediving, it's one breath.
It's one breath. You hold your breath and you dive beneath and you go and explore on one breath. As in, if you come across a big shark and you're like, that is it. You need to surface.
Ma'am?
But that's when you learn the power of being calm and the power of realizing that you only have one breath. So if you're at 30 meters deep in the ocean and you come across something you didn't expect, you don't lose your mind.
Yes.
But I think in the greater sense of, did I think I was crazy? No, I'd never fit in the world. And there was this world where I actually fit, and I didn't need to explain myself. I was just perfect. All there is the present when you're on the line. When I reference the line, when we're diving very deep, there's a line and you've got a lanyard, but you learn to be present in a way that you're not preempting how far you have to go.
Okay.
And when you get to the bottom, you don't look up to see how far you have to go.
Okay.
You need to learn to be just where you are as you are. And that brings a new level of how you engage with life, actually. And when I speak of my own healing, there's so much healing that had to happen, but the amount of healing that the sea has gifted me, she's allowed me to soften in ways that I could never by myself. And to be truthful, because you don't work with ego. You don't get there and be like, well, I've got this breath hold and I'm going to show everybody.
Brings a whole new meaning to that song, Hold the Line. the rock song?
No.
You don't know it?
No.
Oh, it's my husband's dad's, my husband's late father's favorite song. Love is not always on time.
Oh, that's so powerful.
Good morning. Welcome to Friends and Allies. I'm good. How are you guys?
Hello.
Cool. I'm first going to give you guys a tour and then show you how climbing works. Have you guys ever climbed before in your life?
I have a few times.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Little bit. Sick.
Thank you so much for joining me. This is so appreciated. And you went on this adventure with me, took you out the ocean, onto indoor rocks, I guess.
It was amazing, and it's crazy when you learn what your body can do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I want to start off by us drawing kind of a parallel from your own perspective of being, going from water onto the climbing, and just as we went on, how the intensity got, it got pretty intense, it got pretty tough, a little bit of calluses. How would you draw that as a parallel to perhaps your life journey, your career journey?
I would say to trust the process, trust where you are, trust what you're capable of doing, but also, even if you haven't done it yet, it is to just allow the process to be and let it unfold. Like when we were bouldering, at a point you don't know if you can get that, you don't know if you're strong enough to hold on, but you still reach out for it, right? And whether you fall or not, it's the trying that is, and I think that's just the continuous space in my life when moving from corporate to starting a consultancy, because I want to create change, and then I move into the ocean. It's these unknowns that are continuously opening up, and all you can do is show up in your fullness, right?
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the economy of the ocean and the ocean space and the exclusions that are there in the ocean space. Yeah. Can we unpack that a bit? And can we also unpack the dynamics of how you're navigating that space? Who is not being seen in the ocean space, and what should be done better in creating that visibility?
I feel like maybe it's not necessarily a question of who's not being seen, but it's a question of access to the ocean space. We often assume that proximity equates to access, but that's not true. You can live close to the ocean, but if you don't have the resources like a wetsuit to get in, like a strong swimmer in the neighborhood, like someone who can actually watch the kids while they play. And these are currencies that are critical currencies in how we explore, in how we expand, in how we, other parents even home to be able to take the kids out. And so there's this access that is needed in order to unlock the ocean. And I think it's just a collective of realizing where we come from. The historical narrative matters, and when you look at how South Africa is, and I speak about this all the time, we might have moved away from apartheid as a system, but the spatial planning around it hasn't changed. And so when you look at organizations that are creating change in ocean spaces, they work off a radius. I lived in Soweto, no one came for us, it was always too far. And so even with my kids, it says, who's gonna take the stretch? Who's gonna say they're 40 minutes away, but I'm gonna create that change? But what we all know is the ocean is undiverse. And when I started diving, I just remember thinking, I'm always the only black person who's a guest on the boat. And no one failed to say, oh, are you gonna dive with all of that hair? And you're like, I'm already the only black person on this boat, and you want to exclude my body like that. And so over time you get candid about it. I don't know, what are you doing with your hair? What are you doing with your hair? I've lived with this hair my whole life. How dare you question it? Wetsuits don't fit. Your thighs are too, your thighs are wide, and so water gapes into your suit when you're diving. It's these little things that says, is this even built for me? And then there's language. you know, where everybody will go off in Afrikaans. You're like, but excuse me, hi, also me, you know? And so it's these challenges that you always have to walk through, but the continuous realization that you're not going to assimilate. You need to stand in the truth of the beauty of being Black. And in how you show up today, it's how you make space for the little ones that are going to come up after you. And so if you narrow walk this path, you've done no favors for anybody. And if we're going to see a glorious becoming, a glorious healing and embracing of the ocean space, it would surely need to be safe. And so that's my work daily.
You just came back from New York and you just won Global Top 100.
Yes.
Is it Global Top 100 Influential African? Is that the title?
Yes. So it is the Global Top 100 Most Influential People of African Descent. So it is 100 people from across the globe doing incredible work, and it's split into, so it's by the United Nations, and it is the recognition of people of African descent doing incredible work across the world. And it is split through business, arts, humanitarian, and I don't know why I keep forgetting the fourth one, bless me. And so it's lists of 25. And so we all come down to New York for this recognition week, and the mayor of New York shows up and delivers this incredible speech that includes South Africa. When I was in South Africa, their soils, their waters, and I'm like, you know our nature, and it speaks, right? And you know, one of the powerful things he said, I hope we don't get so busy living that we can't hear nature when she speaks. And so that was an incredible opportunity to say, you know, finally, my first time ever going to America for something so big, where my heart is essentially what has guided me to New York. It wasn't about, did this make sense? It just said, we need to make this accessible. I can't go by myself. I don't want to be the only one there. And these little humans are the changers of narratives, the new ocean guardians. They're going to tell different stories, and isn't that the most important thing?
What duty do we have in carrying over the ocean legacy to our children and the next generation of children, especially Black and brown children?
We have work to do, right? And it's a big duty, because when you think about it, everything that we do today speaks of the inheritance that we leave for them. Whether it talks to our consumption habits, whether it talks to our plastic usage, whether it talks to the carbon emissions that the companies run, right? I always say hold business to account, because whether we're emptying out these oceans, it's our children that are going to have less to see, but also what happens when the oxygen is not pumping out, is not able to take in all of those carbon emissions. It's lesser and lesser we would have robbed our children of an inheritance that is theirs. And so it's a continuous space that says we need to do better, and what does that look like?
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Step into your truth.
When you die, what do you want to be remembered for?
That I liberated people to believe that they can be whatever they want to be, and there's no boxes of words, and you can just live. It doesn't matter if you're what girls are, what boys are. You just are, and that's amazing. Like in the ocean.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What's your favorite item? What's your most favorite item you've bought this year?
Wow. This ring.
Oh.
This ring.
It looks very vintage.
Yeah. It holds my heart. This ring is definitely what I value most. I look for it. I once flew back to Joburg to come and get it. I didn't trust that they could courier it.
Oh, where did you get that?
In Cape Town, in this shop, and it was hidden by I couldn't find anything, and the lady was like, maybe let me look over here, and there it was, and it like flickers blue when you look at it in different light. Makes me happy.
It's a stunning ring.
Thank you.
And it's very vintage.
Yeah.
I know you probably are living your dream job, but what is your absolute dream job?
Living in a rural village, writing incredible stories about the ocean, filming these stories and diving into the ocean, bringing out food, catching a fish, cooking, just living a very simple life that rotates around the mountain and the ocean and writing.
Would you ever participate in Survivor? That sounds like Survivor, except with everything else in it too.
I probably would, but I think I would only be kept on for my ability to provide. As in,
We have to take her out. We're in top 5 now. She's now a threat. She has to go. Okay, last question. She is
ambitious.
I love it. Zandi, thank you so much for today. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so very much. It's been amazing.
I hope you had as much fun as I did rock climbing with the Black Mermaid. We took her out of the ocean and onto the rocks, and boy did we have a blast, and boy did we learn a lot and got a few calluses while still at it. That's part of life's journey. You kind of just stay in the moment, you don't preempt the end, get a few calluses while still at it, but have fun. Hashtag hold the line. And I think that's just our theme for today's episode, to hold the line and not preempt what is coming, not preempt what's behind you. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode with hashtag the Black Mermaid. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time.